Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's regular City Council meeting for Monday, August 19th. I will call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Schultz.
Here.
Latta.
Here.
Cruz.
Here.
Hallbaker.
Here.
Canfield.
Here.
Chrisman. Here. Dunn. Here. All members present, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And if everyone is willing and able, could you please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Look for approval of the minutes of the regular City Council meeting for August 5th, 2024.
So moved.
Second. And all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Madam Clerk, any agenda revisions?
Item 4 from the special order of business is being removed tonight.
And just quick information for everyone on that. We've been working with the developer on that. We're just finalizing some of the contract details, so they knew we were taking it off, so we'll have it come back at a later date. Okay. We'll now move to public forum, so speakers will have one opportunity to speak for up to 5 minutes on topics relevant to city business. Is there anyone here from the public that would like to speak tonight?
Mr. Mayor, right before that gets going, I don't have any visual coming through Teams. Just wanted to let Denny know that.
Okay. Thank you,
It's just a
Council.
white screen coming through. Thank you, sir.
Just name and address, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Ryan Hall. My address is 595 Sunset Road in Waterloo, Iowa. I am here in my capacity as the head of school for Waterloo Christian School. Just here for a brief introduction. We have been working with the Cedar Falls School District to purchase the property at 1015 Division Street. That purchase agreement was approved by the school district last week. And I briefly wanted to introduce our school to the city. Mayor Waddick and city councilmen and women, I am just grateful for the service that you give to the city. We are looking forward to building a relationship with you each individually. Just briefly about our school, we are a K through 12, serving 350 students. We are accredited and we have been around since 1973. Our mission is for students to know truth, pursue wisdom, and serve Jesus Christ. We are thrilled about the opportunity to transition to Cedar Falls. We're so grateful for Waterloo for 52 years of history as well. And for us, the building represents a really neat opportunity and milestone for our school. We recognize that the ownership of that property comes with a lot of responsibility. It's not a small space, but we believe that we are very equipped to make it a point of pride for the city of Cedar Falls. Some benefits to the city that we feel we offer are public, community, and green space, local employment opportunities. We currently employ about 60 part-time, full-time employees, a reduction in neighborhood traffic just because the size of our school is going to be significantly smaller than what Cedar Falls High School was, after-school care programs, summer programs, or other initiatives that just generally benefit and serve the community, and other possible partnership opportunities that we are very willing to explore with both the district as well as the city of Cedar Falls. We're confident that our investment into the building is going to continue to allow it being a vibrant hub of learning and community. We feel very well equipped to maintain it, and we believe that our communities need great schools. That includes public schools as well, and we are celebrating with Cedar Falls as they also get to transition into this new school. So we look forward to ongoing conversations with the city about how we could possibly partner. Our hope is to close on the property on December 15th, and we are shooting for a transition date of students in August of 2025. So if anyone is interested in learning more about our school, an open invitation to any counselor that may want to come visit our existing space. And again, once we're ready to open and ribbon cut and do all that, we hope that many of you would be willing to come out and join us as well. So thank you for your time and service.
Thank you, Mr. Hall.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else for public comment tonight? Just name and address, please.
Good evening, Rosemary Beach, Western Home Communities. The weather's changed and my voice has changed too. To talk to you about Prairie Parkway. I've been up there again this last week. I had to walk because I couldn't get across the 2 lanes and an island. to get from one part of the sidewalk to the next one with my back against the traffic. And you just hope that somebody sees my white hair and whatever else I've got on and doesn't run over me. I don't know why there is empty spaces for a sidewalk. Evidently, you can't, unless somebody built something, you can't do sidewalks. Is that right? I don't know the reason. I haven't figured that out, and nobody's told me. So we have all these spaces and places that you stop, and there's no sidewalk ahead of you. You have to go across 4 lanes of traffic, an area with an island to get to the other side. Now, that doesn't mean that the entrances don't even match. So then you may have to go further up the walk. If you can't get, isn't it a rule? You buy something, you own something, you put a sidewalk on it. Is that the truth or not? Evidently not.
If you don't mind me having staff speak quick, Commissioner Gaines, if you wouldn't mind. If you do, we've been working on a couple things the last couple of weeks.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Since Ms. Beach spoke last 2 weeks ago, I believe it was.
Yes.
Engineering staff went out just to kind of mark what sidewalks were there, and there are a number of sidewalks that are missing with regard to lots that have been platted but not necessarily developed yet. And what the subdivision code says is within 5 years they need to establish those sidewalks if the lots aren't developed. So we're going to be contacting the owner of those lots to make sure that they get those sidewalks installed.
Isn't 5 years a lot of time?
Well, I think what the reason the subdivision code's established like that is because once a final plat's approved, and whether it's a residential property or a commercial property, that's going to happen. Most of the time, if you put in sidewalks before that happens, those sidewalks are going to get destroyed. So it's a little bit of throwaway money. And so what we try to do is give the developer about 5 years to establish those sidewalks. If they're not making progress at that time, then we require them.
There's a lot of people, there are businesses that I think have been up there 5 years, and they don't seem to have sidewalks that match up with the next group of sidewalks. All I'm trying to do is get a place that's safe for walkers, because we do walk up there. It's a nice spot. We're around the new buildings. We're doing all that. If we can't have a sidewalk, can we get something painted on the sidewalks that says something about people wandering around out there, footprints or something to alert people that there may be people walking in that sidewalk?
Yes, ma'am, and we're going to get sidewalks there. So.
Oh, that's the end of it? I don't have to come back again?
Well, it's not going to happen overnight, but yes, we're hoping to get.
Oh, come on. I gave you a whole week, 2 weeks.
That is true.
It's not just for me, it's scary. I walk slower. I am slower. And when people honk at me, I don't like that. But one person, I have to say, the other day stopped and let me cross that thing and waited until I got across with a wave. So a little help that way for the public would be a little nice to have that happen too. So thank you very much. I'll watch for those cement trucks like crazy. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosemary. Anyone else for public comment tonight? Just name and address, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brent Burr. I'm from 922 Mulberry Waterloo, and I'm actually here as the secretary of Cedar Valley Pride Fest. Just trying to adjust this here. Great. There we go. Can everyone hear me? All right. And come here tonight to welcome everyone and let you know about the Cedar Valley's annual LGBTQ Pride Fest event. Everyone is welcome. We hope to join. It's a showing of positivity and support for everyone in our community. It will be this Friday and Saturday. Friday will be 5:30 to midnight. Saturday will be noon to midnight. Highlights will be our headliners, David Archuleta from American Idol, if you recognize him, and Carmeet, one of the members of the Pussycat Dolls. And we will have over 100 vendors, different art displays, different activities throughout the weekend that are geared towards everyone. So I encourage you to check it out. There's information on our website, cedarvalleypride.com, including the ability to buy tickets there and to learn more about the events for the weekend. And we are always looking for volunteers, as all volunteer organizations are, so we encourage you to reach out and look into that, as you can get in for free. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Burr. Anyone else for public comment tonight? Just name and address, please.
Denzel, 1107 Melrose. So that's a tough act to follow. Just two concerns. I've only been here for a couple of these sessions, and so I'm still new to everything and how all the legalities and processes work. So forgive me if Roberts doesn't work well for me or any other legalese that I may not know. But two concerns. I've seen that you are going through the ordinances, cleaning them up, and they seem to go by pretty quickly. There's a lot of them, so there's a lot of them. But as I was perusing through some of them drew some concern for me, that they seem not to be either in the best interest of preserving civil liberties or rights that should be due expected to citizens. A couple of them are on the agenda today that I want to consider, so I won't go into much detail about that. But as you guys are faithfully reviewing our ordinances, is there a possibility of a task force or a way of checking that as you consider cutting down some of the ordinances, that you would have someone who is either a constitutional lawyer or a civil rights lawyer to look through some of these ordinances that seem to needlessly impede on citizens' freedoms? Second, as I've been only to a couple, I've had a general feeling of these meetings. They seem to throw a lot at you, and I don't know exactly what I should go to so I can get a slowed down version of this. But there seems to be, as it relates to construction projects and other initiatives of how the city wisely or utilizes funds that are collected through taxes as it relates to construction projects. And if an idea is being pitched, or you're trying to convince someone of something you want to do, a good plan that's good for the community, I feel like it's backwards to go and go and take the thing from the person before having a lined out, reasoned, budgeted, and it's like budgeted plan, and the plan can change, but having a full, well thought out plan that you would present to someone. And this may not be the best analogy, like something like be a Shark Tank. If I'm going to go to someone and say, hey, I want your money or I want your property, or in this case or whatever, for this project that'll help somebody. And I hope these projects help, and I think they would, but I feel like the order of operations is backwards, that you should get the consent, the understanding, and the support of the people, because it just feels backwards. And this might be my ignorance, but it does feel backwards. It should represent the citizens, like not doing things for the citizens, but doing things that represent the citizens' needs and interests specifically. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Washington. Now we'll make sure we follow up with you after and maybe have some of us that could sit down and talk through some of it. Okay. Anyone else for a public comment tonight? Just name and address, please.
Kim Jordan, Cedar Falls. And I guess transportation is kind of one of the things that brought me in tonight, because we have school that's going to be starting here at the end of the week. And we also are looking at Main Street still being closed, and that was quite a contentious situation last year when we had children that were trying to cross 12th Street and not having proper time to be able to cross in a reasonable fashion because of the road construction, and just how we coordinate with Met Transit and now the school buses and their schedules getting to and from those locations. We also have 27th Street that has 3 roundabouts. So how are we planning, or what's the preparedness plan for any accidents that may jam up response time? Is there a back way into the high school? Is it going to hold up UNI courses? We're going to have fall, so there could be some ag uses that come in. And speaking to people that live on Union Road, they have up to 7 roundabouts just to get from there over to Menards, for example. And thinking of, I'm very active with the hospital and trying to set up and think, kind of piggybacking off of that concern, if we have hospitals or schools and we have destination points, how's that back entrance coming in if there's a major stop that's going to impede and prevent? Dialysis is a thing, you know, and timing is a chair time. So time schedules are very critical. Response. The amount of roundabouts, also visiting and really gathering a lot of information from surrounding communities. Our roundabouts appear to be really something that we're front loading our budget monies into. I think what I've heard recently is $33 million over budget on 12th and 18th Street. Those two, if we could, as council, maybe review if that can be thrown out, get back to 4 lanes. We just hit our taxes. We have a 14% increase for city taxes for Cedar Falls. And that's on the assessed values of people's homes. So we need to have representation on these roads that we do have. We are pouring roads. We've got access point. Our time means something getting to places. And if we had 4 lanes at one time, now we have 2 lanes. And if there's an accident at a roundabout, we have issues. And it is response, it's life, and it's timing out of everyone's schedule. So I agree. Sometimes it appears that we think of things backwards, and yet infrastructure and timely, like having the construction finished before a school opens up. I personally do not like the idea of a roundabout at 12th Street because there is no ability for the traffic to stop and allow a gap for children to pass, or walkers. We want people to be able to walk freely without having to pay extra money for transportation. The cost of goods are going up, gas goes up, and yet paychecks stay the same. So we are pricing ourselves with taxes in this community extremely high, and we're receiving less. And again, it's taxation without the representation in some situations on that. So I appreciate the time and the consideration with council on those items.
Thank you, Kim. Anyone else for a public comment tonight? All right, seeing none, we will move on to staff updates. Administrator Gaines, I think we had a few of them.
Yeah, I think Ms. Huseman will give us an update here on our September 11th activities.
Good evening. We are very excited. The City of Cedar Falls will be hosting our very first Hope and Honor 9/11 5K on Wednesday, September 11th. Everybody is welcome to participate in this event. It will be held rain or shine at 7:15 a.m. on September 11th. Check-in begins at 6:45. The 5K will start on the Cedar Prairie Trail next to the Scott Sterrett Memorial Marker. Parking is available at the Falls Aquatic Center, and check-in will be held at Paw Park. We'll have refreshments there, and we are inviting everybody from across Iowa to participate. You can volunteer, or you can run, walk, roll. It's a wonderful event. We'll also be having healthcare and veteran organizations there that will be providing resources, including Retrieving Freedom, UNI Military and Veteran Student Services, Blackhawk County Veteran Affairs, and Vets 49. So really, it's a wonderful resource for veterans, for their families, for first responders. It's a great way to honor everything that happened on September 11th while providing resources and education for the future. So we invite everybody to attend, and if you want to learn more, you can visit cedarfalls.com and just click on the quick link button there, and you can learn more about it.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you.
And then also, I believe,
Mr.
Jason has some?
Schrage.
Yep, just wanted to provide everyone with an update of an upcoming event here, the Household Hazardous Waste and Electronics event that is put on by the Blackhawk County Solid Waste Commission. Each year they put on 2 events, one with the City of Waterloo and one with the City of Cedar Falls, and we are hosting the one for September 7th from 9 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. And they would like you to register, and the contact information for the Waste Track Education team is on the screen there at the bottom of the screen. So.
Thank you, Director. All right, otherwise, special order of business. Move on. Item number 2, public hearing on the authorization of a loan agreement and issuance of not to exceed $4 million general obligation capital loan notes for essential corporate purposes. We have a motion to receive and file proof of publication.
So move. Second.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded, and all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, seeing none, Madam Clerk, any written communications?
I have no written communications on file, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And then staff comments, we have Director Rodenbeck.
Sure.
Thank you.
Mayor, so the agenda tonight is a public hearing to authorize selling general obligation notes not to exceed $4 million. This is in correlation with our CIP process and the projects listed on the CIP that use general obligation or GO funding. We are required to split the amounts on the agenda of the hearing that relate to essential corporate purpose and to general corporate purpose, as defined under Iowa Code. So this particular item, it relates to the essential corporate purpose, and the main projects this will fund is the Aldridge School Connections, Main Street reconstruction, West 22nd, West 23rd, and fire equipment.
Thank you, Director. And do we have any public comments for this item tonight? Just name and address again, please.
Kim Jordan, Cedar Falls. I guess we have Main Street, we have 27th, 23rd. First Street is kind of a concern too. I'm not sure if that's something that could be addressed. I was watching.
This related to specifically what's in this funding?
The
First
essential
Street
corporate,
and
yeah. If there is a way, or how are we addressing the problems that we've created at First and Hudson Road? And are we looking at that with Main Street as
Ms. Jensen, this
another?
specifically is relating to the bond issuance for those roads. Are First or Main included in that, or anything related to them?
Main Street is, but not First Street.
Okay. So is there something within this bond issuance that you're
Well,
focused on?
it's the roundabouts in general. You know, it's the vast amount of space that they occupy. We, as a city, never got a swimming pool, which I thought was kind of going to be put together somewhere near the rec center, which now, if we're spending all this extra on a roundabout instead of something public safety or public health for all people, and we know that we've eliminated the usage of the junior high pools, it seems like we've already gone through a lot of spending. And I mean, it's a bigger picture, but when we're looking at applying for $4 million and we haven't already fixed some of the problems and now we're asking for more, I guess it's like reminding us of how we've gotten ourselves into trouble and then thinking of what we're doing as a finishing up of Main Street, 27th, 23rd, which it would be nice as citizens if we could say, if we have 3 accidents that affect parents' premiums on insurances the first week of school, can we look at just calling Court Peterson and saying, take out the roundabouts, put in 5 to 7 lanes, 2 lanes into McLeod, 2 lanes into the Unidome, 2 lanes, turn lanes into the high school, and reduce, have a straight flow instead of bottlenecking everything like we did with Eric Road. And so yes, asking for more money, thinking about how it's going to be spent. So we're thinking about everyone that's paying 14% more in their taxes. Because, yeah, it looks like a number, but it means something. Thank you.
And quickly, just to speak to the process, so these general obligation bonds go through a very extensive goal-setting process with the council, which includes a lot of public meetings with public input on what those goals are. And then as a group, each year we go through and define what are the priorities, what are the areas we're investing in. So there is a very substantial process that goes behind how these are decided on what the priorities are. This funding is essentially approving those funds. And we actually, as a city, have a policy that we only issue replacement debt. So essentially, every year, we're paying off $4 million, and we're replacing $4 million.
2 years.
Every 2 years, excuse me. Thanks for clarifying that. And so I think the policy and the process, there's a lot to this beyond just what is on this today. So in terms of having specific areas that like to see more investment, that's definitely why we have these meetings, why we have the public forum, especially with goal setting. So my biggest recommendation would be, especially with goal setting, is those are public meetings. You can attend those, is to be able to get some of that input in while we're deciding the capital improvement plan each year. Because I believe the capital improvement plan is where the majority of these decisions and funding obligations are coming from. So that, I think, would be the best time. And we do that each year. This year should be around late October, November, when we're doing goal setting. So that would be my recommendation, is the best time to really get in the weeds and hands-on with some of what we're prioritizing in the CIP. Any other public comments tonight?
This is
Just name it.
1107 Melrose. This is just clarity. Is this, I heard you mention Ms. Rodenbeck? Rodenbeck, sorry,
That's
apologies.
okay.
That this is for Main Street and others. But specifically Main Street, I'm looking at going from what's already been done and what's going to be done. Is this covering the cost of what's already done, or is this covering cost of what will be done in the future as you finish the project? And was all of that project approved in one big setting and you're just doing it in chunks and you need more money each time? Will this amount of money cover everything you need and there won't be need for more? Is this all that is being spent, or are we going to come back again and say, hey, it's not finished yet and you need more money?
Director Romick, do you mind answering?
So on our CIP that the mayor was talking about earlier, our capital improvements program, you'll see that for every project, Main Street included, there's various funding. And so we already had planned that we knew it was going to take a couple bond sales to actually help pay for certain things on Main Street. So it's not like this was new costs, so now we have to go bond more. We had that planned in our CIP.
All righty.
A lot of times, especially for multi-year projects, because we can't just sell the money up front and hold on to it. It needs to kind of be expensed in a certain time frame. So it'll be the whole project was planned and approved previously, but then we'll just have to do it over a series of time if it's a multi-year project like Main Street.
So like for multi-year projects, you're not adding something new, you're just continuing what's already been allocated.
Yes. I believe I'll let.
Yes, there's an actual contract that was signed for Main Street, knowing that it was going to be a 3-year project, and so that dollar figure has been established.
Okay, and that number is not the total number. That's just the number for this round.
The $4 million that you see on here is the bond sale, and that incorporates a number of projects that are within our capital improvements program.
Okay. Cool, thank you.
I was going to say, Mayor, after the meeting, if for some reason we just want to look at the CIP together, I can kind of show you how the CIP shows what funding sources for a project.
Actually, just knowing you're looking to kind of get more tied into with it, that would be a really good thing to do, because the CIP kind of goes out
5 years.
5 years,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the whole list of all the things we're spending money on. It's not always set in stone, because every year we have to shift around, but that's kind of the best guiding document of kind of where the majority of the bigger expenses are going to.
All righty, thank you.
So if I want to show you, yeah.
Yes.
Mr. Washington, I think Mr. Ganfield had mentioned at a previous meeting that if you'd like to dig in a little further, if you click into the agenda that are posted, for example, as they're saying there's multiple things on here, it would maybe help you understand a little bit more of what, it's not, I mean, there's Main Street reconstruction, Union Road, Box Culvert, Viking Road reconstruction. There's like 20 things here that we've only mentioned a couple, but just ahead of time, you could look and see some of this stuff.
Oh, yeah, I did have the great privilege to actually look through some of it, but then all the verbiage was kind of hard to understand, and I'm like,
Yeah.
this wasn't made for me.
Well, I appreciate you coming up and asking questions. That's what it's all about. That's what public comment's all about.
Thanks, Mr. Washington.
Thank you.
Anyone else for public comment on this item? All right, seeing none, we will close the public hearing and look for a resolution instituting proceedings to take additional action for the issuance of not to exceed $4 million general obligation capital loan notes for essential corporate purposes. Do we have a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion and seconded, and requires a roll call vote, please.
I guess we don't do comments. Never mind.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll go to item number 3, a public hearing on the authorization of a loan agreement and issuance of not to exceed $750,000 general obligation capital loan notes for general corporate purposes. Do we have a motion to
So
receive and
moved.
file?
Second.
Motion and seconded, and all those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing none. Find my spot here. Do we have any written communications, Madam Clerk?
I have no written communications on file, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And then also, again, we've got Director Rodenbeck.
So this is the portion about the general corporate purpose not to exceed $750,000. So the main projects for this funding is some smaller projects, and it relates to various equipment for the community center, library, cameras, just kind of a handful of smaller items that are on our CIP.
Would you mind really quick, just for information purposes, kind of explaining why there's 2 different bond votes?
Sure. So under, I think it's Chapter 384 of the Iowa Code, it talks about things that fall under essential corporate purpose, and those you don't have to have a referendum for. So you can sell whatever you want, 10 million, 5 million, whatever, for those type of projects. And kind of the way it sounds, essential means, things like streets, sewers, stormwater, fire equipment, things that most people would kind of relate are essential to city operations. Then there's general corporate purpose, which you do have to have a referendum for if you're spending more than, now it's about $900,000 for a specific project. So that's why you see things that are more, I want to say quality of life type projects. So in this case, like we said, it's tables and chairs for the community center. It's a handling thing for the library. It's cameras. They tend to be more of those quality of life, not essential.
Yep. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. And on this item as well, is there any public comment for this? Go ahead. Just name and city again.
Denzel, Cedar Falls. I remember you mentioned Rodenbeck, right? Ms. Rodenbeck? Yes, I got it right this time. That you mentioned that without having to go to referendum if it's more than 900,000. Is that number arbitrary? Can that number be changed, higher or lower, depending? I just think this is like non-discretionary, not having to do a referendum on, and they're important things. I'm not saying that. It's just, where is that 900,000 coming from? Can be higher, lower, depending on?
Sure, the state of Iowa actually sets that threshold. So for many, many years, that was at 700,000, and then with House File 718, some legislation they passed recently, that was one of the things they did in it, is they increased that threshold. And now I think they have in the Iowa Code that it will increase every year by like an inflationary index versus going, 30 years at one number and then making a big jump. So yep, it's set by the state of Iowa, so we don't have any control over that.
I just wanted to know if that number was arbitrary, or was there some logic behind that specific number? Thank you.
Any other public comment tonight? Just name and address again, please.
Kim Jordan, Cedar Falls. I just wanted to also find out, like equipment needs in particular, is this something with the city owning the hospital? Would that be something structural that could be done with funds from this as well
Sure,
that
Justice,
council should be looking at?
Do we have anything in this for hospital related?
We do not.
Okay, so I don't think there's anything related in this to hospital.
Does it ever stretch out into that, or is that another form of like government, state, or does it, how it used to be a city-ran hospital? Do we have flexibility to maybe pull from that account to do repairs in the future, or should we have been doing something since 2011 with equipment, things that might have needed updating there?
Well, I'll speak to that. It's just, I think for anything with the hospital, it's a private entity, so we don't really have, can't give public dollars to a private entity. So I think that would be a whole separate conversation about ownership of the hospital, which is not what this is for.
Okay.
But there was nothing, especially being a private hospital, there's no involvement we would have with.
Okay, so like even road infrastructure, like making sure curb and gutter and so forth.
Road
Trying to
things
figure out
sometimes would
how
be-
this could maybe help the appearance, because we do own it and we want a nice facade if they're not going to be responsible for doing that.
And some of those would come down if it's private property, if it's public property. For anything that's public property, our roads and things we maintain, that's part of the CIP, is kind of deciding and prioritizing where do we put dollars to. And again, that would be something we prioritize every year in the CIP. If it's public property, or private, excuse me, on their property, that would be a separate conversation with more the code side.
I just want to make sure that there's, all avenues can be pulled for hopefully future things that need to be.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ms. Jordan, I'd like to comment for you quickly there. The process of the goal setting that we refer to, which creates our CIP list, we do a, I'm trying to think of the right word, questionnaire. What do all the council members want? We submit that in the beginning of the process, and then we slice and dice it and figure out what we vote for and continue. So that's where the items come to get on the CIP and other things that then create the need for money and then create the budget. Am I saying this? Thumbs up. Okay. What's that phrase? I can't think of the term that we use when we solicit ideas from the council. What's it called?
Goal setting.
I think you hit the nail on the head with questionnaire.
Yeah, I was thinking there's another name for it, but anyway.
So is it just that in the past, the people like the CEO of the hospital just never have come asking for like assistance because it is a city-owned, for us to be addressing it in our
It's all sources.
CIPs?
It's all sources of.
Mr. Mayor.
Quick there, so say it's not really appropriate conversation for
Oh.
this forum, so.
Okay.
It's, if you do have an interest, I would highly recommend reaching out to the individual council members, because that is where the rubber really meets the road as your elected officials.
Yeah.
These meetings are more kind of the official business piece, but especially with goal setting coming up, just kind of a PSA for everyone. A lot of times, like Councilman Cruz was saying, is council members will bring their priorities to those discussions. So each person has 3 council members that represent them, your 2 at large, and then your ward. I would highly recommend sitting down with them and kind of talking through some of your ideas, because they're ultimately your representatives who bring those ideas to the conversations.
Right.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to throw in the comment that if only one council person has an idea, the rest don't, then it doesn't move forward.
Right.
It's just a voting
That's,
process.
we have to, because that affects every person here, if they're going to be a patient of that and choose to be, or, right. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment for this item tonight? All right, seeing none, we will close the public hearing and look for a motion, resolution instituting proceedings to take additional action for the issuance of not to exceed $750,000 general obligation capital loan notes for general corporate purposes.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, and roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Moving on to old business, item number 5, passed ordinance number 3075, amending Chapter 2, Administration of the Code of Ordinances, relative salary of members of the salary of mayor. Upon its second consideration, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and seconded, and any discussion from the council? Seeing done, any discussion from the public? Name and address again, please.
Oh, gosh. I think it changed since I was last up here. Denzel, 1107 Melrose. So I want to look at number 7, if I can.
You'll have to wait till we get to that item.
Oh,
So if you have
okay.
any-
So that was each item. I thought
Yeah,
it was.
we'll go through each one at a time.
Okay, I'm looking for number 7. Okay,
Okay.
cool. Thank you.
All right, any other public comment on this item? All right, seeing none, do we have a motion and second and requires a roll call vote, please?
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Item number 6, pass ordinance number 3076, amending Chapter 2, Administration of the Code of Ordinances relative to oath, bond, and powers and duties, bond upon its second consideration. Do we have a motion to approve?
So move. Second.
Been seconded, and any discussion from council? Seeing none, any from the public? Seeing none, motion second and roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Item number 7, passed ordinance number 3077, amending Chapter 16, Offenses and Miscellaneous Provisions of the Code of Ordinances relative to discharge of weapons upon its second consideration. Do we have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Motion seconded. And any discussion from council? Seeing none, any?
I was just going to throw a comment for Mr. Washington, possibly. Do you understand second consideration? We've already talked about it once before in depth. And then staff talked about the topic, which then created the first discussion. You understand that?
Yes.
Okay. I was just, okay, because earlier you made a comment that it all of a sudden appears on the list. But there's a process, extensive in some cases, before it gets here. So that's all I wanted to say.
Okay. Any other discussion from council? All right, seeing none, any from the public? You can do just the name.
Yes, thank you, thank you. My address still hasn't changed, Denzel. This one I had the opportunity to read through, and I think there was something missing from how you guys changed it. I know you guys reflected it in getting rid of the carry portion of that with recent changes in the law about constitutional carry and other things, but there's something that doesn't seem to account for the actual discharge. If you can constitutionally carry it, that means you can constitutionally use it. And so the only thing that I would like to consider is adding the word where you made the change. No person shall unlawfully discharge, because there is a lawful means for citizens to discharge anywhere in the state of Iowa, including city districts. So I would like to add the word unlawful because that makes a pathway for self-defense, which there may be a separate ordinance for that, but I would rather state it clearly as it relates to discharging of firearms. And it also allows for other recent laws on what the definition of unlawful means. So there can be some ambiguity. Say, it doesn't happen a lot here in Cedar Falls as far as I know, but some incident happens and I have to defend myself or my family. And if I fire off a firearm of any type, that would mean be breaking this ordinance. So just for clarity and making sure there are no infringements, that we just add the word shall not unlawfully discharge. Thank you.
Thank you. And oftentimes for these, rather than comment them, because legalese, better than not try to do that on the fly, but we'll make sure to review that. So thank you, Denzel. Any other public comment for this item? All right, seeing none, we have a motion and second, and roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. And item number 8, pass ordinance number 3078, amending Chapter 24, Utilities of the Code of Ordinances relative to the applicability, definitions, and requirements for approval of stormwater management plan upon its second consideration. Do we have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
And seconded, and any discussion from council? All right, seeing none, any from the public? Just name and address, please.
Craig Fairbanks, 405 Spruce Hills Drive. Sorry, I wasn't here last week. I didn't think it was utilities, had to do with stormwater. At least I didn't read it, so. I'm glad they attached the state law to it because it kind of spells out what it is. There's three major elements to it. One is the soil preservation, which we've had various discussions about. The other is the 2 to 5 year average, that a 2-year event makes it so that you could have a heavy 93, 11-inch rainfall, and then you complicate that with only figuring over 2 years, and it means different things in a very, very short period of time. So I'm glad that they passed that, and that is in the ordinance. I do have some questions. One is, where does I understand that the dirt issue is now regulated by the general permit number 2 at the state. I just need some clarification on that. I had talked with David Wicke about that, and I think I got a confirmation. And then the other is about the inflow and outflow of water. I didn't see anything in this resolution that speaks to that. So that you're responsible for the water that is currently on your property, and when the construction's done, that it still evens out to the same amount of water coming out. So in other words, you're responsible to retain your own detention. So those are my questions. I just have questions about where are those items? Do they belong somewhere else, or should they be in this ordinance?
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Do you have any quick answers off?
Sure. I'll start off with the inflow and outflow. That hasn't changed from what it previously is. Only have to contain what is on your site. If something is draining off site, that can pass through at the same rate that it enters, so nothing has changed there. And preservation of topsoil is correct. It's regulated by the state. Basically, previously, if a site had 2 feet of topsoil on it, they were only required to put back what is required by SUDAS, which was 6 inches. Now the state mandated or regulated that whatever's there existing at the day of construction has to go back. So if there's 2 feet of topsoil, 2 feet of topsoil has to go back.
And then if there's still more questions, I can follow up afterwards, and we'll make sure and touch base on you. Everyone okay?
Yeah, that's
Mr.
fine.
Mayor,
Yeah.
I do want us to remember we're not talking about the actual, we're amending what's in the ordinance to clean it up. So, I mean, I'm not trying to take away from any concerns, but it's not really, we're not changing, we're just cleaning up to make it,
Yep.
so.
Now, since it's not within this, unless there was something specifically within this to clarify, but if it's just talking separately about our stormwater, we can.
Well, I think
touch
it's
base
about
off.
the clarification about the stormwater in and stormwater out. In previous situations, developers had to take on additional stormwater for other properties that are not in their specific development. So in other words, they've had to compensate for neighborhoods next door where they have water flow that comes in, and they haven't been compensated to do that, or the law says that the city will pick up those numbers if they want to do that. The city can do that, but the law states that the city will pick up the cost to do that, including the land loss to the developer, and I don't see that anywhere. So that's the question. The state law was attached to it. Maybe somebody could explain to me where that's at.
Okay. We can touch base off on this. Thank you, Mr. Fairbanks.
Mr. Mayor.
Do you want me to I can answer that real
Yeah, if
quick.
you have
So,
something.
so basically, from Mr. Fairbanks, anything coming off-site at X rate can pass through the site and not be detained by that developer. So it's no impact, or we're not requiring the developer to detain it or add additional cost to their infrastructure. Mr. Fairbanks is correct. If we would require something above and beyond Senate File 455, the city would have to compensate the developer for those additional infrastructures.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor. All right.
Yeah.
I guess the thing, this is more than just cleaning up. It's really updating our code to comply with the new regs that the state mandated.
Correct.
Yeah. So it's not just cleaning up old language. It's a little more than that, really.
Yep.
So
Forgive
Mr.
me,
Mayor.
that's what I meant.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other public comment for this item?
Mr. Mayor,
Yep, go ahead.
if I may, I just wanted to ask if Director Schrage could comment on the addition in section C1 for the unobstructed 100-year storm overflow routes being added to the stormwater management plan. Will there be a cost expected for that addition, and are we going to compensate individuals, or does the state indeed require that addition?
That is an actual clarification item that is not in the Senate File 455. That is a current requirement today. It's just not shown in the ordinance. So those are things that they are required as of before July 1st. They're still required to submit. We're just clarifying that.
Okay, so no added cost from this change. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor.
Mr. Mayor. Just to clarifying what you're saying there are things at the state level or SUDAS that are not in our code but still applicable to the developer. We don't have to repeat everything from the state code in our code to apply.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay.
Any other discussion from public or council? I see none. We have motion and second, and a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Move on to the consent calendar. The following items will be acted upon by a voice vote on a single motion without separate discussion unless someone from the public or council requests that a specific item be considered separately. Are there any requests for items on the consent calendar to be considered separately from the council? Or any from the public? All right, seeing none, we'll look for a motion to approve items 9 through 14.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We'll go to the resolution calendar. So the following items will be acted upon by a roll call vote on a single motion without separate discussion unless someone from the council or public requests that a specific item be considered separately. Are there any requests for items on the resolution calendar to be considered separately from the council? I'll plan to pull item number 24. Any others from council? And any from the public? 17? No discussion on that right now. We'll pull it separately. Yep. Any other from the public? All right, seeing none, we'll look for a motion to approve items 15 through 30, excluding items number 17 and 24.
So moved. Second.
The motion seconded, and this requires a roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So we'll move to item 17, a resolution approving and accepting the special warranty deed and approving and authorizing execution of an encroachment agreement in conjunction with the Viking Road and Prairie Parkway intersection improvements project. And
So moved.
oh yeah, motion seconded, and hold on quick. Any discussion from council? All right, go ahead. Just name, please.
Denzel, thank you. Address still hasn't changed. So I know we talked about this earlier, and I brought it up in my concerns earlier in the beginning when I made my public comments. This just goes back to this idea that you're approving and accepting this deed and starting to executing these things as it relates to these projects. Have the property owners surrounding these areas been contacted? Have they been reached out to? Did they, if not agreed, have they at least been made aware of what's happening? Have they been represented? That's just my concern in this process. That's about it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Gage, would you like to speak to that, or whoever on staff really did the?
Sure, I can do that. One of the first things that happens in a project is we have public meetings as well as public hearings on our, in this specific case, relates to right-of-way acquisition. So the neighboring properties have been contacted, and we've been in contact for multiple months.
Alrighty. So that's before you agreed to the. So it's like all the contacting and that you have done with the property owners, that has been done before you signed a line saying, hey, we're good to do this.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you. Just make sure I'm clear. I don't know a lot, so I have to ask a lot of questions so I can learn something. And with that, then, sorry, there was one more thing that I wanted to mention. I can't remember it. Doesn't matter. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Nino. All right, any other discussion from the public? All right, seeing none, we got a motion and second to approve, so a roll call vote, please, for item 17.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And item number 24, resolution approving and authorizing execution of an agreement for use of city parks and services with Sturgis Falls Entertainment Group Incorporated. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion seconded. And the reason I pulled this was just to make clear, because I know there's been past conversations with Sturgis. The event, this is with a different group than the previous contracts have been with Sturgis Falls. It's with a group, we've got a few representatives here that's headed up. It's a nonprofit partnership between, I believe the president's Pete Downs, one of the previous board members of Sturgis Falls, the group from Overman with representatives from Main Street, Cedar Basin Jazz Festival, as well from River Plaza. And so it's essentially a lot of the same contract for Sturgis moving forward, but have a new entity that's stepped in to continue that event forward. So wanted to open it up for discussion from council. Just wanted to be clear with that, knowing it's a different group than what you've seen before.
So, Mr. Mayor,
Yep.
and I know it's largely semantics, but do you want to clarify the names of the different entities as well as the actual event for the members of the public so they know what the transition is and what they should expect? By and large, it should be transparent, but the facilitation is done by two different named groups. Could you give those names again?
Yeah, thank you, Counselor. So the event would be for Sturgis Falls the weekend. The entities involved, so Sturgis Falls Entertainment Group is made up of a partnership. It's a private nonprofit, not a city entity. That's headed by the groups that have represented Overman Park for the previous Sturgis events, Cedar Basin Jazz Festival as a board member of it. There's a representative from Main Street on the board, Kim Bear is here, and then as well from River Plaza. And I'll let some of that group speak if the group would like to, but it was really some of those groups that have been really involved with the Sturgis Weekend over the years coming together to essentially try to bring the event together as a more collaborative group event, still doing some of their independent activities, but coordinating on some of the promotions of the weekend.
And just to clarify, that's the last full weekend in June.
Yes, which is the last full weekend in June per the contract. Did you think that covered it, Dustin? Council member? Thank you. And thank you for helping us clarify that. Any other discussion from the public? All right, seeing none, I'll look for a roll call vote for item number 24.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. That moves us to allow bills and claims. We have a motion to allow bills and claims for August 19th, 2024.
Second.
Second.
Motion seconded. Any discussion from the council? And any from the public? All right, seeing none, roll call vote, please.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any council updates and announcements? All right, seeing none, I move to council referrals. So we have two items on here for referral. Item number 32, refer to a city council agenda approving and adopting the May 18th, 2022 Cedar Falls Resilience Plan as presented by Perkins and Will. Attorney Rogers, do we need a motion to approve discussing the referral or just move to discussion on that?
Sorry, I wasn't prepared to speak. So in order to generate discussion, it has to be a motion in a second, and you can discuss, then the vote.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion for discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and seconded and open for council discussion. Mr. Hawbaker, if you'd like to, since it was your referral.
Thank you. I think after some of the presentations we've had as of late and also some of the news that we've had, I don't want to get into a debate again about adopting or anything like that, but I think that having a resilience plan is incredibly important. We had a lot of input from the community, spent a lot of time generating the information, and I think the guidance that's within the plan is well taken, and that we should, to the best of our abilities, strive to meet the standards that are in that plan. So it's a great guide to have. We know from staff that it's important that it's adopted so that it's something that they know is a policy of the city and that they can look to try to conform with. It adopts no specific project. It commits no specific money. It's simply a plan that helps guide future decisions. And given weather events and other challenges that communities in our state are having to follow, I think it's important that the city of Cedar Falls adopts that plan.
Thank you, Counselor. Other discussion from council?
Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
In order to discuss this, we have to go to the debate, I guess, that we always say, receive, file, and adopt. I thought of another concept just last night. It's already basically in our file cabinets, if you want to call it that, computers, all the ideas and things that were brought forward by the consultant and the community input and so on. If we didn't want it, we could have received the information and rejected it. So we could add that as a third option, you might say, but we received it and filed it, and many of the items in there are ongoing and have been acted upon by various entities in Cedar Falls. Just by receiving and file, it doesn't preclude anybody from doing anything in there or bringing forth a topic. By adopting, that means we're approving, I think there were 72 action items or something like that, that goes over 10 to 15 years. And there's money involved with all of them. There's always action, and it costs to do the action. This was declined on a 5-2 vote in 2022. I just don't feel that, again, it's definitional, conceptual in staff's mind, but receiving and filing, we have the information, all the activities of the work sessions that were done with the public is active and it's there to use and pick up and run with. Somebody come to the podium and say, we want to do item C dot, whatever it is. So the way we sit right now, I think is totally fine. I don't think we should adopt the whole thing in the fashion that has been described. It's there to use as we can. Thank you.
All really quick, if I may, just throw in my thoughts on it is essentially we need to give staff direction on one thing in particular is, do we move forward with anything in this plan at all? And I think just from conversations, everyone agrees there's good things in this plan, there's things we should be doing. I think it's really a simple question of, do we want to adopt the whole thing and that's the way we move forward, knowing certain things will be brought back to the group? Or are we saying, no, we're not going to adopt the whole thing, we probably just want to move forward with pieces, but that means moving forward in some capacity to say, here's the pieces we do want to move forward. So I know we could get into this all day, but I think it really comes down to is, do we want to vote to just adopt this, or I'm guessing it's a conversation about which pieces do we want to give staff direction to move forward on. So just to put it out there for my piece, I think, again, we could argue all day on this, but it really comes down to just what's our opinion on how we move forward with it.
Mr. Mayor, so, I'm sorry, am I, Mr. Hallbaker, or you?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So from the discussions that we had 2 or 3 years ago on receive and file, I would say looking at it differently now and putting the stamp of approval on it by adopting it, I don't think Mr. Gaines is going to tear out the dam based on our vote here tonight without coming back to us and saying, here's what we need to do, here's the plan, and here's what it's going to cost, even though things like that are in that. Unless I'm wrong, Mr. Gaines, or you don't have any plans, right?
You have a secret plan.
You'll let us know, right? So I think it does give that approval that, okay, yep, we're ready to move forward. If it's bits and pieces, even the bits and pieces will come back in front of us as they occur. So that's where I'm going to be in the favor of it this time around.
Mr. Mayor?
Counselor? Yep.
I think that I would really like to see this adopted, especially for when we apply for grants. I know that throughout our application process, they ask often, and while we as a body may debate receive and file versus adopting. The grant applications see it adopting. That means that you have a resilience plan. If you receive and file, then you don't. So at least that's what I've come to understand. So I would be for adopting it and then working our way through project by project.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, or I should, anybody else?
Go for it.
Just in reference to Councilman Cruz's statement that the plan somehow has 72 action steps or whatever the number may be, the plan does outline several action steps. Every single one is aspirational. So, for example, under C5, actions, pursue the development of walkable and bikeable mixed-use neighborhoods. Not a specific sidewalk in that description, not a specific discussion about a bike lane. It's something that we should pursue. And every single action point within that resilience plan simply highlights that fact, and I agree that will, I think, enhance our abilities for future grants, and positions our city to prepare for the future. So I'm in favor of adoption.
Thank you, Counselor.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
If I may, I know this, if it does pass, we'll come to another portion where we'll talk about what to adopt and whether we amend the plan or anything like that. I don't need to hash a whole lot, but if you give me a little bit of latitude, I'd like to give a comparative. If, for example, we listed 10 items that we all needed to adopt, let's just call them the 10 commandments. I think we could all find that we'd agree that thou shalt not steal and thou shalt not murder are good things that we should strive to avoid in our community. But I would be hard-pressed to believe that everyone would think that they should love the Lord our God with all their heart, mind, soul, and strength. So there might be a piece of those 10 commandments that some might not adopt and approve and recommend to all of the city. This plan is no different. It has some divisive pieces in it because of some of the back and forth of council over the years. I would argue that that's exactly what we've been arguing. There are some pieces in this resilience plan that people don't support entirely. So they'd like to take items and put forward the good items that we all agree on and push for those. I personally don't believe that we have a massive climate change on our hands that we need to set by edict that all of CFU's vehicles switch over to electric or hybrid, or that we need to set metrics like be carbon neutral by 2030 or reduce emissions by a certain metric. Those are specific projects and targets and can be interpreted as marching orders. So this idea that's gone back and forth for 4 years, we simply need to bring forward the items that aren't getting worked on, that need to get worked on. We don't need to wholesale adopt this plan again. Again, if it passes, we'll go into the metrics again at the next meeting to approve or not. That's just my 2 cents. I won't be in support of it in total.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other discussion from council? All right, seeing none, we have a motion and second, and to clarify, this is for a referral to put on the city council agenda to approve and adopt the May 18, 2022 Cedar Falls Resilience Plan as presented by Perkins and Will. I'm going to take that as just at the next council meeting because I don't think there's any additional information that's being requested, so this would be on the next following council meeting as an agenda item. So we have a motion and second on that, and these require voice votes. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Nay.
I believe that's 5-2. Is that what you got, Madam Clerk? All right, that motion carries. Item 33, refer the staff to draft a revised city ordinance to remove prohibitions on parking and storing recreational items such as boats and towable travel trailers on rear yards. Do we have a motion to approve? Discussion.
I would like to move to refer that drafting to staff.
So we have a motion?
Second.
Motion and second, and open for council discussion. Councilman Gainfield, this is yours.
Sure. Mr. Mayor, if I may, thank you. I was looking at this from a property rights aspect. I think it is an interesting thing that we can tell people what they cannot do with their own private property as far as potentially parking a boat on a trailer or a personal travel trailer in their rear yard. I'd like to see that be something that's an allowed use. Not only do I want to make sure that we maintain the protections against safety or health hazards in other sections in code, but I'd like to loosen this up so that members of the public can't be cited just for storing their own boats and trailers. So I would refer to our experts in the staff to do that code review, similar to how we've been doing our other ordinance review, so that we can get it clean and members of the public might be able to enjoy personal watercraft or towable trailers and not have to pay $90 a month for storage on some other facility that they already own their own land. They should be able to park it on their grass without putting a pavement driveway down that causes water runoff issues in perpetuity, and is an extra cost to the homeowner that they don't need to incur. I'd just like to have that removed so that they may do such activities.
And if I can add a clarification, I know we have rear yards on there, but this was also to encompass side yards. It wasn't just the rear, I believe. The way you intended it.
Yeah, there's a numeric, I have an attachment for the referral, but there's a numeric preclusion. It says you may have no more than one parked on the side yard, which currently is required to be paved. If there is a pavement next to the driveway, that's where that preclusion is. In my estimation, if we remove the provision or the prohibition against rear yard parking, that should cover it. They could park other items on their grass.
Okay. Any other, so council discussion for this?
Mr. Mayor?
Yep, go ahead.
While I understand what Councilman Gamfield is saying, and in a perfect world, we wouldn't need any laws because we'd all just be really great neighbors, I thought to myself, what got us to this point? Like, why do we have this ordinance to begin with? And it's because of, historically, and it still happens, but now we have a little more teeth. Maybe you had folks parking things, and I mean, I think we've probably all seen it, or we've gotten a phone call or two where people are parking things in their yard. They're not maintaining the yard around it. Grass is growing up. It's becoming, when you talk about health hazards, there may be critters living under it. There's noxious weeds, things like that, safety concerns. Where if I think about when we do get concerns or complaints from, because the same body has had conversations where we have maybe criticized our staff for not enforcing code violations when it comes to noxious weeds or unsightly things in homes and business or properties. So I guess what I'm rambling about is, while I understand what Councilman Ganfield is saying, and I can appreciate the freedoms, I also know, sitting in this seat, that there are concerns that folks have when people maybe aren't neighborly. And this ordinance gives some teeth to our staff when they go out and address the maybe car or boat or travel trailer that's been parked for, sometimes months, but sometimes even years, and helps them to enforce, cleaning it up, moving it. And then while I can get down with the concern about concrete and how that's not permeable and the environmental part of that, I go back to thinking what got us in that position, and I believe it probably is all to keep the unsightly boats, recreational type things, just collecting dust and weeds and all the things that we maybe can envision. So while I appreciate the thought, I personally am not looking to make a change at this time for this. If we had, 6, 7 code enforcement officers that could just go around and make sure that we're enforcing, the other parts of the problems, which would be the noxious weeds or things like that, then I might get down with that. But right now we have a very small staff. I don't want to take any teeth away from what they do, for the good of the entire neighborhood and the folks that live there.
Thank you, Counselor.
Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
I guess looking at what I read here, and of course it's not the final version potentially, I don't see what Mr. Ganfield is requesting is going to change our 8-inch grass ordinance, because wherever the grass is in a yard, whether it's near a boat, near a trailer, it's got to be 8 inches. That's code enforcement rules in our books. Noxious weeds are noxious weeds, whether it's bull thistle or whatever list of weeds that we have, cannot be anywhere on our property. It's not going to take away from any ability to take care of the looks of our yards. Prairie grass plantings that are out there have critters in those, more so than even something like this. So I don't see a problem with this as it's presented. I'd like to see it move forward and come up with something, and then we could have public discussion come forward and critique it even further, because that's part of the process. So that's how I see it. Live and let live. Let people use their yards. Many times these little utility trailers get used only a couple times a year. Why do we got to put concrete underneath it? It's just put it behind your garage or something. Anyway, talking too much.
Thanks, Counselor. Other discussion from council? A couple of you, that look on your face, like you're maybe thinking about.
Well, I would just add that to be certain, we would, as Mr. Ganfield has it written here, that would be our discussion. That would include the side yards, correct? Okay.
That's a side yard, side or rear.
Mr. Mayor.
In his note.
Hold on one sec. Dustin, can you clarify quick how you...
Yeah, the request is rather simply to ask them for a draft language. We'll do all the discussion and dialoguing about what may or may not pass in the future if they get the go-ahead to draft this language. I included both rear and side yards because section 26-222 isn't clear about what's allowed in the rear yards on grass. So I'd like to have the experts tell us what we can do and what we should be citing. I agree with Councilmember Dunn that we don't want to allow obnoxious things to happen. And so all of those other prohibitions against, as I think Councilmember Cruz said, those should remain. We shouldn't allow any habitation of vermin or any dangerous situations like gasoline storage on a trailer. Those will all stay. Those are already in code ordinance. I'm just asking to not make somebody pave their backyard, but I want to have the staff tell me what all needs to change to get that done.
There is a more detailed write-up, especially for anyone watching. There's a more detailed write-up beyond just what's on this and the full packet that further explains. So if I'll take it as your direction was what you wrote in that longer paragraph is kind of what the direction you're giving for what staff would have for information to act on.
Yep, and certainly available for any clarifications via email if staff have the go-ahead to look at this drafting. This is just the first step to have them take a look at it next.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other discussion from council?
Mr. Mayor. Look, reading here verbatim what's being said, recreational vehicles, boats, and towable trailers. I would want to zero in also when we work on this utility trailers for hauling sticks and twigs and things that people accumulate. They got to be licensed to be used in the city on the public streets, but this is referring more what it looks like to recreational, but there's also utility items that should be included in this as well, if Mr. Ganfield would go along with that.
Yeah, I'd be agreeable. I guess I assumed it was covered under towable trailers, but I may have put towable travel trailers. Either way, we don't allow members of the public to store sticks and weeds and things of that nature on their backyard. That should still not be a thing that they do. But yes, I would be agreeable to looking at trailers in quick summary. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion from the public on this? All right, seeing none, requires a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Did you catch that?
5-2.
5-2? General consensus? Okay, so that motion does pass. That will move us to executive session.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. If I may, I'd like to refer one more referral under exigent circumstances.
Yeah.
Based on the ordinance change around unlawfully discharging firearms. I would like to refer to Attorney Rogers to make sure that that meets constitutionality.
Okay.
I would move that we refer to him to that to review before the third and final reading on that ordinance change. Though that may kick us back to a first reading, I think it's better to get that correct across the board before we change that law.
If everyone's okay with it, I can just work with it.
You don't have to refer it. It's constitutional.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
If I could ask for clarity on that. When it states unlawful, when somebody uses it in self-defense, that becomes lawful. It doesn't have to be. It's by what's the word, emission or by?
As Mr. Hallbaker can tell us, that's a legal excuse. If somebody tried to cite you for that, it's a defense to a citation.
so it becomes lawful. Doesn't have to be stated.
Correct.
Yeah, if that helps.
Okay. Okay, we have item number 34, executive session. So we'll move to executive session. So executive session is to discuss property acquisition per Iowa Code Section 21.51J to discuss the purchase or sale of particular real estate only where premature disclosure could be reasonably expected to increase the price the governmental body would have to pay for that property or reduce the price the governmental body would receive for that property. So we will not be officially ending the meeting. We will come back to actually adjourn the meeting after executive session. So you're welcome to stick around until then, but there will be no further action taken. We'll just adjourn. And so otherwise, thank you everyone for coming tonight. Oh, yes, do we have a motion to go to executive session?
So moved. Second.
And all those in favor, roll call vote. Excuse me. You have to go back to your computer. I'm so excited.
You really wanted to get to this executive session.
All members voting aye, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. We'll now move to executive session. Thank you, everyone.
Exceptions of things.